Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Track B. My name is Luay Toma. I'm from the County of Santa Clara's Office of Emergency Management. I'm going to be facilitating the Track B sessions today. I hope you enjoyed our keynote speakers. Next, we have a series of speakers who will talk to you about how they're using GIS technology in their own fields. Again, please, as a reminder, if you have any questions for our speakers, go ahead and type them into the chat. So our first speaker today is going to be Captain Justin Stockman. He's from Santa Clara County's Fire Department. Captain Stockman is currently assigned to the Administration and Planning Division of County Fire. In addition to managing public information for the department, Justin is charged with vetting, deploying, and implementing field technologies that act as force multipliers for responders in the field. After joining County Fire in 2010, Justin was promoted to captain in 2017 and was assigned to the Administration and Planning Division in 2020. Captain Stockman chairs FireScope's Emerging Information Technology Committee, where he advocates for interoperable and standard-based approach to technology in the California Fire Service. And we'll hand it off to you, Captain Stockman. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Luay. And I want to say again, welcome to everybody, and thank you for taking the time with us today. I'm honored to start off Track B today, and I'll start by saying I'm probably not your typical presenter on GIS topics. I very much come from the operations side of the fire service, from being on a fire engine and responding to 911 calls. With that said, I'm a huge proponent of like Luay said, the careful adoption of technology into the fire service, especially here in California. And that comes from the fact that we continue to face what I would consider to be a rather intractable problem of increasing incident complexity, an increase in both the rate, size, and destructiveness of wildfires. And we have to find the right tools to allow our firefighters and other first responders to simultaneously be more aggressive and safer. And that's a difficult thing to balance. And so I'm going to talk about two tools that we're using to do that. One that's very much internally facing that we use as first responders, as firefighters, and another one that we've built up to aid not just first responders, but also the community. So I want to start by talking about Santa Clara County as a whole. It is a very populous county at about 2 million people. The county is about 1,300 square miles. Santa Clara County has the second highest GDP in the state of California, second only to Los Angeles County. We have 10 different fire agencies, and those 10 different fire agencies have among them 86 separate fire stations. And you might be asking why that detail, why those last two bullet points? And it's because I want to paint a picture of complexity in Santa Clara County. We're very fortunate to have a large number of fire resources, but those fire resources come from, again, 10 separate fire agencies, and they're operating out of 86 different facilities. And so what we're left with is a need to, again, improve interoperability, coordination, and communication. And not just that, but recent events show an increasing tempo and increasing complexity when it comes to responses. So I sat down and thought about what incidents over the last 20 years or so really illustrate the scale of the problem facing firefighters in Santa Clara County, and I came up with this list. The Santana Row fire was a large commercial structure that burned back in 2002 while it was still under construction. The Metcalf sniper attack occurred in 2013. That was a sniper attack on critical electrical and communication infrastructure, sort of on the southern end of the county. The county, of course, hosted Super Bowl 50 in 2016. We have, of course, like all of you, been navigating the COVID-19 pandemic. 2020, the summer of 2020 was a very interesting series of events for Santa Clara County with the SCU lightning complex on the east side of the county, the CZU lightning complex fire just to our west, and then various other fires around the state that really stressed resources statewide and throughout the western United States. And most recently, we had a series of very large commercial fires just this year, earlier this year in 2022. We had a large commercial structure, about 75,000 square feet, burn in the city of Campbell in April. And then the very next month, the city of San Jose had a fire that completely engulfed a Home Depot. Both of which required, or all of these events required, a great deal of interagency collaboration in very stressful and complex conditions. So what I'm building up to is we have two big questions in the California Fire Service, and I think it's very poignant right here in Santa Clara County, and that's how do we enable first responders from different disciplines and jurisdictions to work together more effectively? And the second question is, how can we execute evacuations that are timely, accurate, and easy to understand? So I'm going to cover those one at a time, and I'm going to talk about that interagency collaboration, that collaboration between disciplines first. So this interagency collaboration is largely being accomplished with a web-based platform called Intera. Pretty much the rest of this presentation is going to be me showing you actual screenshots and talking about the impact that this tool has for us on the operations side. Intera layers traditionally disparate data sources into a single view. So what we're trying to accomplish with Intera is really taking all of the wonderful GIS-based data that's available and bringing it into a user customizable feed. And that comes from our operational experience that we can't predict ahead of time what's going to be needed during a disaster. We can't build a static feed of information for our responders that's going to be effective today, tomorrow, next month, next year. They need to be able to fine-tune their view based on the mission that they're tasked with. So it's focused on interoperable data feeds, being driven by a near obsession with situational awareness, and building what's been termed a common operating picture. And really what it's doing is it's bringing in a tremendous amount of data. It's bringing in automated vehicle location, automated resource location, fire history, jurisdiction boundaries, infrastructure, remote sensing. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but really any kind of information that's pertinent to us, that's valuable to us, ends up within this platform in a way that we can select and view what we want to view. So first view is our common operating picture, trying to build a common picture that works for everyone, especially in its ability to be customized. And really, what I want to emphasize here is we often say a picture's worth 1,000 words. This picture is worth millions or maybe billions of words. If I were to zoom in and out, if I were to turn layers on and off, you would get the idea. You would quickly grasp the concept of I can express so much visually through the layering of GIS data that we're opening a whole new world of collaboration and cooperation and safety with our first responders. And this starts relatively simply, right? One of the simplest, most basic things that Intera enables us to do is see a live CAD feed over a pre-built map with AVL included. And that's what you're seeing here. On the left-hand pane, you're seeing details of an event that's been dispatched out of Santa Clara County Communications. We're seeing times, we're seeing the codes within the CAD, we're seeing the exact location, and we're seeing the actual notes that the dispatcher is typing in live. Place that on a map, and we see the position of the vehicle, the position that the call was actually dropped at as far as GPS coordinates on a map, as well as really anything else we want to layer in here. So this is the simplest form, but as things grow in complexity, we're able to give more and more context. This actually, the event I'm showing you now is not a Santa Clara County Fire Department incident. This is an incident within the city of Santa Clara, which is its own jurisdiction and has its own fire agency. And this shows not only the event that's occurring, but also the resources that are assigned and where they're at. Now, within the city of Santa Clara, this may not be day-to-day impactful data, but imagine an incident that grows in complexity and now requires a response from surrounding agencies, right? Being able to visualize where the event is, who's assigned, and where those assigned resources are significantly simplifies the job we have to do. Suddenly saying, hey, Battalion 91 is at the command post, please go to the command post and tie in with Battalion 91, suddenly has a tremendous amount of context. We know exactly what we're talking about when we have this tool to aid us. So let's take it a step further. This slide is illustrating an incident that's even larger in complexity. This is a vegetation fire that's occurring in the town of Montecito, which is between Los Gatos and Saratoga here in Santa Clara County. And it's showing a feed of quite a bit of information. We're seeing, again, the CAD information on the left, that could be turned on or off. That CAD information, again, is showing us exactly what the dispatcher has input into the event. We're seeing which resources are responding, and depending on how we're zoomed and where they are in the process of arriving on the incident, we can see those resources directly on the map, right? So for somebody who's in charge of this event, they get a much better picture of who do I have on scene, where are they, who's still coming, and how far out are they? But there's more at play here. You can see the red shading is one of my favorite things to have included. Shading like this can indicate a number of different things. It can indicate the transition from local responsibility area to state responsibility area, indicating that there will be a state response from CAL FIRE or another agency. It can show us fire severity zones as an example. So we get an understanding of when to expect changes in fire behavior based on fuels and topography. Really, the sky's the limit on what we're going to enable here. There really is truly no limit to the data that we can start including in these maps. Other things that are commonly layered into these views would be alert wildfire camera feeds. So being able to look at your incident, see what's going on, and click directly on the camera. The other is remote sensing, for example, remote weather stations, right? Having that embedded directly on this map. So I can take a look at an incident and see the difference between weather in one place and weather in another. This view is zooming way out, and we're moving away from a specific incident view. And it's showing what Intera has termed and what we call the SITSTAT monitor. The SITSTAT monitor gives us an overview of what's happening throughout the county. And so there's a bunch going on here. On the left in the SITSTAT monitor pane, you see I can visualize active events. So we see 4 of 11 laid out right there on the left. But I'm also looking at resource availability and utilization. These are exceptionally valuable numbers, right? Because it gives us that ability to monitor what's going on countywide. How much more capacity do I have, or does the fire chief have, to respond to additional incidents? The other thing you should be noticing about this map is the green. And this is one of my favorite views within Intera. That is a map of drive times based on live locations of suppression resources on the western side of Santa Clara County. So where you see dark green shading, that indicates a 4-minute drive time. In other words, any 911 call within that dark green shading is within 4 minutes of a available advanced life support suppression vehicle like a fire engine. The lighter green is 7-minute response times. This is exceptionally helpful, especially to our battalion chiefs that are responsible for field level tactical and strategic decision making, that have to decide when and where to move resources. As you can see right in the middle of the map, where you hopefully you can tell there's 2 big freeways crossing, there's a tremendous gap in coverage. So being able to visualize that on this map allows our command staff to take a look and say, hey, we need to start moving fire resources into this area that doesn't have any coverage, anticipating the next emergency that might come in. This is live updated 24/7, always available to our staff. Moving on, zooming out even further, this image was taken in the middle of the summer of 2020. And what you see on the west side or the left side of the map is you're seeing the CZU Lightning Complex. And on the right side of the map, you're seeing the SCU lightning complex. Views like this help us illustrate not just to firefighters, not just to command staff, but also to our local elected officials and even state and federal officials, the scale of the problems we're facing. As you can see from this simple map, we're able to show that these two fires are absolutely dwarfing what we would consider the Santa Clara Valley, the main populated area of Santa Clara County. It helps provide that context to properly communicate the scale of the risk we're facing as a county and in fact as a region. One of my favorite functions of Intera is because it's drawing on widely available data that's usually built at the county, state, or federal level, is we take Intera with us wherever we go. And this example shows an engine from the city of Santa Clara deployed on a fire out of county. And it's showing a number of things. Number one, again, we're seeing the automated vehicle location, the AVL for engine 97. We're seeing the basic map that's showing us streets and a little bit of topography, but we're also seeing the latest fire perimeter and other predictions and data about the fire. You can see on the left pane that there are some layers, some feeds turned off or turned on, but many are turned off. Additional data that could be added to a map like this would be satellite thermal imaging scans, as an example, that would give even more context to, hey, where is this fire? Where is my resource? What is it doing? And as we continue to build out Intera, especially as we see the adoption of Intera as Scout by the state of California, we're hopeful to see more and more resources, more and more AVL feeds within Intera, so that we can get even more context of not just who am I working with, but who am I working alongside of. And the last Intera slide I want to show you is this one. And to me, this is really the bread and butter and promise of what Intera brings to the table. Unfortunately, I don't recall what event this was. This was either a 2019 or a 2018 or a 2020 fire. But you can see this is a significantly complex incident. We are not only seeing AVL feeds of several Santa Clara County resources, but we're also seeing the data that's being done by the situation unit, by the GIS folks at this incident to keep this updated. We're seeing everything from cold line, that's the black line, to hot line, the red line. We're seeing where dozer work has been done. We're seeing division breaks. We're seeing helicopter dips and drop points and weather stations. All this information gives a tremendous amount of context, and that context, again, saves lives by allowing firefighters to be more aggressive and safer in that aggression. Efficient may be a better word. So I want to move on from there, because we just have a few minutes left, to talk about what we're doing on the public side. And this comes down to evacuation management. And what I'm going to talk about today is a product called Zonehaven, which I suspect many of you are aware of. Before I get to Zonehaven, though, I want to talk about where we came from. The fire service and law enforcement have always worked together to facilitate evacuations when lives and property are at stake. This collaboration, again, has been on paper and it's been on the fly, right? It's required, as you can see in some of these smaller photos, it's required everyone together in one room to make complex decisions as sort of one-off choices of, okay, well, what are we going to evacuate? You know, what area, how many people, where do we send them? We were in the mode of describing evacuation areas by landmarks. And this was mentioned in the keynote speech today, which was absolutely wonderful. I actually spent, I think, 3 or 4 weeks on the Bobcat fire that was referenced. And you know, that fire was a good illustration of how complex not just decision-making, but communication about evacuation can become. And when we're speaking in landmarks, it's confusing. And I want to read this just to illustrate that. I'm going to describe an evacuation area, an evacuation order for the area north of Junipero Serra Freeway, south of Foothill Expressway, east of Magdalena and west of Hoffman Terrace. I can guarantee you that a significant percentage of the people living within that area would not be capable of identifying that they live within that area based on that description, and that's not good. And so what we're pushing for in Santa Clara County is the adoption of a new platform called Zonehaven, and we are well on our way to that adoption. Zonehaven is digital. It predetermines evacuation zones. It provides an easy to visualize protective action guide, and it's an all hazard tool: fires, floods, earthquakes, active shooters, bomb threats, hazmat, police actions. There's really not a limit. Even for smoke inundation from wildfires and structure fires, we tend to use Zonehaven. It gives us an ability to clearly and concisely communicate with the public. So let's take a look at what Zonehaven looks like at a broad scale. The wonderful thing about Zonehaven is it's being adopted at an increasingly rapid pace throughout California. You can see that to some extent or another, most Bay Area counties have adopted Zonehaven. Some of this data is not, some of these zones aren't currently publicly viewable, but they will be soon. I think the take home here is we're building increasingly towards a common platform to manage evacuations in California. The advantage there is that people are becoming more and more familiar with what Zonehaven is and how to use it. So let's zoom in a little bit to Santa Clara County. This slide illustrates, and again, some of this data is pre-release. Not all of these zones are yet active, but what this data illustrates is those pre-built zones. And we're going to dive into this a little bit more, but you can see these zones are of varying sizes and shapes. And that's because we've custom built them based on a number of available factors. Some of the factors we look at are illustrated on this slide. So I've zoomed in even further. We're looking at the city of Cupertino. In fact, you can see the Apple spaceship in the upper right-hand corner of the map. This is a largely residential area of the city of Cupertino, and this zone has been determined based on evacuation routes and populations largely. So you can see that just by clicking on this zone, I can see my day and nighttime population. It increases by about 1,500 overnight. My day and night vehicle population, the area in acres, and then I can see a number of other data. I can see a more traditional description of the zone, of the evacuation zone. I can see this information in multiple languages, and I can see jurisdictional responsibilities, right? This for the public can be exceptionally helpful to be able to look and see, you know, who is my fire department? Who is my police department? Especially in a county like Santa Clara that has, you know, 10 different fire agencies, and again, even more police agencies. So let's move on and look at another slide here. This one is demonstrating how easy it is to affect a change within Zonehaven. So we've moved zones, and now we're looking at Apple Park. And this zone was essentially built around Apple, understanding that it is unique and distinct from the surrounding residential communities. But if we had to initiate an evacuation of this area of the Apple Park campus, their spaceship campus, it's as simple as using a dropdown. It's as simple as changing the zone status from normal to evacuation order, evacuation warning, advisory, shelter in place, whatever we need to, whatever protective action we need to put in place to keep the public safe. But with all that said, I think it's important to talk about what Zonehaven isn't as much as we're talking about what Zonehaven is. What Zonehaven isn't is it is absolutely not an alerting tool. It is a reference tool. And so we actually work very closely with the Santa Clara County Office of Emergency Management and their Alert SCC tool, which is essentially Everbridge, as well as their access to wireless emergency alerts. Obviously, we're working close with Santa Clara County Communications as well, so that when we make changes in Zonehaven, we build emergency messaging, whether that's an Alert SCC message, a wireless emergency alert, or both. We build alerting messages that includes zone designators as well as a direct link to Zonehaven. So what we might send out through an emergency alert text message is something like wildfire, Redwood Estates area, evacuate north towards Los Gatos, zones, SCC E055 and SCC E056. And then the final part of the message just says community.zonehaven.com. That webpage is accessible from any internet connected device. There is no sign-in required. It allows individual community members to go there and input an address they're worried about, whether it's their home address, the school their kid goes to, the place they work, input that address and definitively determine whether or not they are affected by an evacuation order, warning, or other protective action. This is significantly simplifying the process of initiating the evacuation and significantly improving the public's ability to ingest and digest the information that we're giving them so that they can take appropriate action and get out of harm's way faster, which is absolutely our intention. The last slide I'll show related to Zonehaven is, again, from the summer of 2020. This is showing the western border of Santa Clara County as it impacts Santa Cruz County and San Mateo County. In this case, the CZU Lightning Complex was burning in both of those counties, in San Mateo and Santa Cruz County. And the red you see are evacuation orders issued within Zonehaven to residents of those counties. As that red moved closer and closer and closer to Santa Clara County, we determined it would become necessary for us to start taking actions. We didn't want to, or we weren't at the point of being ready when this photo was taken of issuing evacuation orders, but we did issue evacuation warnings all along our westernmost border with these two counties to warn those residents that if the fire spread further, they would need to be prepared to evacuate. So I hope what you saw today was an illustration of how we're using technology and specifically GIS information to significantly improve, again, that safety and efficiency for our responders, but also safety and the clarity of information for our public. Thank you for taking the time today. I'm happy to answer a couple questions, and then if there are further, I'm happy to answer via email.
Hey, thank you so much, Captain Stockman. We appreciate your presentation today. We did see a few questions in the chat. What we're actually going to do is we aggregated them all, and we'll get them to you. And to those who asked, they'll be posted on the GIS website a little bit later. We'll notify you, and you can get those answers then. But just want to say thank you again to Captain Stockman for the presentation. We're going to have another 10-minute break and return at 10:50. Thank you again, everyone. And thank you, Captain.